What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, and with me today I have a very special guest who was literally my favorite on this season of Ultimate Fighter, and a lot of other people were caught attention to Joe Giannetti, and he's joining us here today. Jojo Skeletor Giannetti. What's going on, boss?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man, but you know, after this weekend, there's been some breaking news that came out about you that I was literally shocked the second that I saw you get in the cage and say what you said, man. So just to catch everybody up, you were on this season of Ultimate Fighter. You stood out more than you broke records. You literally got John Gunther out of there in 17 seconds in the very first fight, and you made it all the way to the finales. Now, going into the finale fight, let's start with that fight. How are you feeling going into that finale fight?
It was probably the greatest weight cut I ever had, and I felt better than I ever have before.
And when you got to that point, wasn't it kind of like clear, like if anyone else is going to make it into the UFC, it's got to be me and, you know, my opponent here, not really anyone else, because they did not make it as far as I made it, or at least put an impact. I mean, listen, Joe, the fight before the finale, you had one of the most amazing fights I've ever seen on The Ultimate Fighter. I even tweeted it out live. I was like, this looks like I'm watching somebody in a video game right now. Like, things were just clicking. I was very surprised once that finale went through. Let's catch everybody up. Where were you standing that night with the UFC? Did you talk to them after the fight? Where were you standing?
So, I don't know if they expected me to talk to somebody or they wanted to talk to me. Nobody really came to me and presented that. As soon as they raised Trezano's hand and they announced the decision, I had left the cage. And they just guided me over to the doctors. The doctor asked me, how do you feel? I said, I feel like I didn't even get in a fight. I didn't have a single injury. I didn't even break my foot, which I normally break my foot or my toes. I had a bruise under my eye. I was 100%. And they said, here's your check. Elevator's down there. They'll take you back to your hotel. And that was the last I heard of anybody from the UFC.
So literally after that fight got let through, we found out that John Gunther is now on the UFC roster. We found out that Violent Bob Ross, Luis, is going to be on the UFC Fighter. I've seen Twitter blow up after the other night about, you know, there's a lot of confusion here. What do you think the reason is why the UFC didn't get, you know, bring you back here?
From what I've taken from what they said is pretty much they didn't like the way I carried myself. They didn't really think that I fought like I wanted it. They kind of feel like the way that I fought in that third round was just, I thought I was up 2 rounds, so I was playing it safe. That's watching the fight back, that is kind of what it looked like, and it sucks that I couldn't make it look any different, but that's not what was going on. My body was shutting down in that third round. I could barely breathe. I wasn't tired. I was still able to bounce around. If you see me bouncing around, I'm not tired. But I felt like my arms were lead pipes. I couldn't move them. And I saw so many openings and started letting my hands go, and I literally felt like there was a force holding me back, because I would be sitting there and my coaches were telling me to let my hands go, and I was thinking straight left. I was thinking uppercut, right hook, knee up the middle. And just like, as I'm thinking it, my body wasn't moving. And I felt like I was almost paralyzed. And it was just such a weird feeling, and I started getting sick throughout the week. The day of the fight, I was horrible, and then the first 2 rounds, I felt fine. I was like, I'm not, like, the sickness isn't even affecting my performance. Third round, it was, I don't know if it was a sickness or what it was. I just was almost paralyzed. I was able to let my kicks go, and I was still landing kicks, and honestly, I thought I was doing the better on the feet. I was landing some counter right hooks every time Mike stepped in, but I wasn't able to let my striking go nearly as much as I was thinking it in my head. And they didn't like the fact that I smile a lot. And I did an Instagram Live the other day, and I tried to explain to people so positively, and they understood it. Some people told me to go pound sand. I was a fat kid growing up. I had literally down to my family and my friends and everybody, like my whole life growing up, like people were ragging on me for being fat and useless and like some messed up stuff. So, you know, confidence is always a problem, and like depression's been a problem in my life. So, you know, when I get in that cage, half the time it's, okay, I'm ready to do this. And the other half of the time I'm in there going, okay, I hope I don't just lose. So, you know, when I'm in there and I start piecing somebody up and they can't touch me and I'm having a great performance, I smile because I'm proud of myself. And I know that, and it's weird to say, but in the middle of that moment, I think of all the times where somebody says I'm useless, and all the time somebody says that I'm not going to be able to do what I want. And like, when I fought Alon, I smiled the whole time because I was like, oh my God, I'm in the cage with a 13-0 professional fighter and I am giving him the work. And it's not to be cocky. I'm just proud of myself because I worked super hard. And it was the same thing with Mike. I thought I was doing really well. Unfortunately, I couldn't let my hands go, but the performance itself wasn't the best. But there's plenty of other people that Trezano would have knocked out. So that was why I was smiling. They didn't like that I flipped him the bird. I mean, honestly, I shouldn't have done it. But at that point, I couldn't let my hands go. I just felt like something was holding me back, but I thought I could counterpunch him. He asked me to stand and bang, and I'm a smart fighter. The reason I win fights is because I fight smart. I'm not better than anybody. I work harder than everybody, and I fight smart. My game plan was to use my length and pick him apart, and standing and banging wasn't it. So I flipped him off. I tried to aggravate him. I wanted him to step in, and I wanted to counterpunch him. Props to him. He didn't do that.
And you know what, that second round, I think, was very frustrating for you. I feel like I did a live reaction to your fight when it was going on live, man. Bring us through what was going on in that second round. You guys kind of got tied up, and I feel like the ref should have stood you guys up. There was nothing going on there, and I feel like that kind of, derailed the momentum a little bit.
So the second round was weird. I believe it was towards the end of the first, or maybe it was the beginning of the second. Oh, it was the first. We were on the ground, and I went for an inside heel hook, and Mike's knee actually popped and, gave way. I was pulling back on an inside heel hook, and it went pop, pop, and I went back, and I thought the fight was over. He fought through it. Good for him. But in that second round, I went for a takedown. It was kind of half-assed. I didn't really want to, but I did it anyways. It was just weird. I ended up on bottom. I went for a figure 4 foot lock. I didn't get it, and then we ended up in I guess you call it donkey guard, a reverse mount, and I kept attacking the foot, and then from there I couldn't get it, so I was like, I'm just gonna let go, and he'll get up, and we'll start standing again. And Mike decided, I think that he knew that if he moved, I was gonna catch him, so he sat there and he started elbowing me in the butt. So I did it right back, because one of the biggest things in my gym is if you see meat, hit it. I'm not just gonna sit there and have a guy lay on me. I'm going to try and put him through some pain. The thing that really pissed me off was I always thought Mark Goddard was an amazing referee. I'm a huge UFC fan. That's something people forget about me. Before I was a fighter, I still am a fanboy. I still watch all the UFC cards. I'm up at 7 a.m. watching them on Fight Pass on Sundays. But before the fight, he came up to me, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. He's a phenomenal referee. And he said, listen, I will never take a position away from a fighter, but I will warn you twice, and after that, if you do not try to progress or advance your position or finish the fight, I will stand you up or separate you wherever you are. I was like, awesome, sounds perfect to me. I counted in the middle of that fight, Mark Goddard warned us 5 times. So at one point, the entire stadium, including my friends and family, were booing. I opened up my guard, I opened my hands, and I started yelling at the ref, what do you want? What do you want? And he didn't stand us up. So I definitely think I got screwed a little bit, but my performance in the third was the biggest thing that played out and lost me that fight.
Here's why I think it is such a waste for the UFC to do this. I mean, everybody that's going to look back on season 27 is going to think of you, and they're going to think of Violent Bob Ross, man. I mean, you put such a staple inside that season, and I thought there was no doubt about it that you were going to be going into UFC. You had the story to back it up. I mean, the entire story about your father and promising him that you were going to make it into the UFC. It felt like the entire season was basically around you, Joe. That's literally how I felt through the season. And you grew out throughout the fights. If you got to the very last episode and what I saw in your performance when you're going there, like I said, I thought it was a video game. I thought that you did better than a lot of people out there on that season did. And it's just kind of surprising to see these other guys get a contract and not you. Did they reach out to you? Have you heard from anyone else on this season that's kind of surprised as well?
I think everybody's kind of surprised, but I mean, we're all grown men. Nobody was really reaching out. We were a team for 6 weeks. The other team was against us. But I've been in touch with Suman. He thought I was still in the UFC, so he's been trying to see what's going on. He wanted me to fight in Australia so we could train together and hang out. Unfortunately, that's not an option. Me and Luis have been talking. I'm going to be going out to AKA soon for a week to get some work in with him in DC. So we've been in touch. But yeah, that's really about it.
Joe, I had Gunther on 7-8 days ago, maybe a little more, and he was, full force, knew that he was in the UFC, which I find very strange about all of this. How is John Gunther in the UFC, who you smoked and said, broke Ultimate Fighter records, beating, and got his second shot? How is Artem still in the UFC? Why, this, does that's got to hurt, man, thinking about John Gunther getting it after you took him out of the competition. You took John Gunther out.
So to me, I mean, it just unfortunately kind of shows that People just look at a personality a little bit more than your fight skills. I mean, like, let's be real. John Gunther's not really that great of a fighter, but let's also be real. He's got heart and he works really hard. Like on the show when we were talking about who was going to be coming back for Luis and who was going to be coming back at the 45ers, all of us talked about it in the house and we all said the same thing. Me and Luis agreed, like, John Gunther should probably come back. Yeah, I smoked him in 17 seconds, but he works super, super hard. Like, this kid was outside every morning while we were on Tough shooting a double leg on a tree. He tied a tennis ball to a tree branch to shadow box. Like, he worked harder than anybody else on Team Stipe.
Yeah.
And I kind of relate to it because, like I said millions of times, like, everybody thinks that I suck now because I was doing so good. I mean, I'm not that good. I just work hard. And that's probably the reason they kept Gunther, because he fought like he wanted it and they thought I didn't want it. And nobody understands that I want it more than anybody else.
Well, this isn't the end of the road. We've seen this happen to a lot of fighters before where, they've gone through the Ultimate Fighter, something happens, but they make their way back into the UFC. So we were cage side this weekend for Cage Titans 40, where you had a couple of your teammates go in there, do their thing, and here you come inside the octagon, and I'll insert the clip on the edited version here. And you pretty much broke news that you are not in the UFC, that you want the champion right now to either defend or vacate. Where did you get there? Because I was a little surprised that he didn't take that moment and just kind of promote that, because this would be a huge fight for him and you.
I mean, honestly, I think that it's not a good fight for him. And I think he knows that. And I'm not talking crap. As a professional fighter that has a career, and he's a professional fighter that has a career and a future, I just don't think it's a good fight for him, and I think he realizes that. So I know he's down to fight anybody, but I think his coaches are smart, and I think that they're going to avoid that fight. I don't think that fight's ever going to come to. And I think that he handled it very well, as a way to put it, because let's be real. If he stepped in the cage and said, oh, my coaches don't want that fight, he would have got booed out the cage. And I understand where he's coming from. So I don't knock Dan Dubuque, because he took the fight with me back in January, and I pulled out to go be on Tough, and he messaged me personally, and he understood 100%. He's like, I can't be mad at somebody taking that opportunity. So until I find out if he's going to vacate or if he's going to make the fight happen, I'm not focused on Dan Dubuque. I'm focused on anybody that steps in front of me.
And what's up with Nick Newell? Like, I saw you guys kind of going back and forth. Nick even messaged me. He was like, I can't fight for Cage Titans. But how did that come about? Like, I thought that was really strange.
I'm not sure. I just saw that somebody tagged me in something. I guess Nick said he wants to fight me. I mean, we're cool. I have nothing but respect for him. I've watched him fight for years before I was even a fighter. I think his story is amazing. But I mean, it makes sense. And I said that before, is I'm out of the UFC and I'm only 23, and all these guys are going to be thinking the same thing. Oh, Joe's my ticket. That's how I'm getting back in. But like, let's be real. There's one man on this planet that has beaten me, and it's Mike Trezano. And it's because he didn't win, I lost. And there is a difference. There is. So now everybody thinks that I'm an easy win, and that's fine, because I'm down to fight anybody, and I'm going to do what I do best and finish everybody.
There's a quote out there that says, there's nothing scarier in this world than a man who feels embarrassed. And I feel like for you, this is kind of just taken away from you. And I don't feel like it's fair. But at the same time, like, I feel like we're going to look back at this interview in about a year time, and you're going to be in the UFC, and it's going to be really motivating to hear this side of the story, how you came back from this, how you got motivated. How motivated are you feeling right now? You got to be fired up about this.
It's unreal. Like, I literally would, like, if Khabib or Conor pulled out in a couple weeks, I would literally call the UFC and say, give me that fight, because I'll sleep whoever you put me against. Like, it's so weird. Like, I took my first loss in MMA, and I feel more invincible than ever. I've learned all my holes. I learned all my holes in training, and I learned a quote that I think Ronda Rousey said is, you can't train to be the best on your best day. You need to train to be the best on your worst day. And that's something that I never did, as I was always ready to be the best when I was fighting at 100%. And I fought on my worst day, and I wasn't the best. So I definitely have some stuff to improve and learn on, and I'm coming for everybody. And everybody's underestimating me like usual, and they're all going to pay for it.
Joe, before I let you go, there's one more thing I want to mention, just to show what a staple you were on this season. I mean, even when Violent Bob Ross finished his fight, he said, backstage, Joe Giannetti showed me the secret move. This weekend before your teammate Chris's fight that he had against Matt was telling me, he was like, man, I've been watching Joe, and I think I've picked something up from his skill set. Like you actually like there's a lot of people that are very interested in how you go in there and literally snap necks and cash checks, Joe. So, you got the bonus this season. Let's not look down on this moment. If anything, right now this is going to help you get boosted up and people get behind you a little bit more, I feel.
I mean, I hope so. I got my finish bonuses for each fight. Unfortunately, the UFC decided not to do season bonuses, so I didn't get my $25,000 bonus for finishing John. So it's been tough.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's been. I kind of got the short end of the stick big time. But like I said, there's nothing I can do. I'm just gonna train hard and fight, and the UFC is gonna realize they made a mistake. And when they start promoting me like they promote Conor McGregor, we're gonna look back on it and we're gonna laugh about it.
Hold on, Joe. I can't let you go on that note. What do you mean? You got the finish. Dana White looked at you in the face backstage and said, "You got it, kid." What? How? That pisses me off, man. That's some new news here.
Yeah. So Dana gave me 2,500 for finishing John. He gave me 2,500 for finishing Alon. I don't know personally if it's Dana's decision or whose decision it is, but everybody told all the fighters at the beginning of the season there would be season bonuses, 25,000 for knockout, submission, and fight of the season. Those bonuses just got lost in translation, and it could be because of my performance at the finale that they really didn't want to give it to me. So yeah, I didn't get that bonus. I got paid my half of my purse money. I got my Reebok sponsorship bonus money, and that was it. Got sent on my way, got my papers a few weeks later, and I'm working my way back to the top. I mean, it's been tough, and like these people that think they're MMA fans and they want to come at me and say, I'm not saying you threw the fight, but it would definitely make sense. I posted a picture of my checking account on Twitter. I have $70 and something cents, maybe less because I bought a coffee this morning.
Yeah.
I have no money. This is my life. It's not going to change. And the kid that you saw fighting a year ago was living in his truck. And if that's what it takes again, that's what I'm going to do. I did not throw that fight. I suffered because I lost that fight and performed horribly. And I'm going to keep suffering. And I'm going to have to fight to get my way back.
Joe, I cannot wait to see what happens. I will be at every single one of your fights coming up, man. So what's the game plan here? When do you think you're going to get back inside the cage?
November 3rd is Cage Titans. That's what I'm aiming for. I don't give a shit who I'm fighting. I'm not scared of anybody. As you've seen, I went on the Ultimate Fighter with a bunch of guys I didn't know, fought everybody. I beat the 2 guys in the house. I lost a split decision. I will literally fight anyone. Who will my coaches want me to fight? Who knows? Who will my coaches say you're fighting this guy? I don't know. I don't care. My coaches make the decisions for all the guys that are going to come at me saying you're ducking this guy, you're ducking this guy. My coaches make the decisions. I just show up and fight. But I'm not scared of anybody, and I'm ready to finish anybody.
These are the stories that make MMA fans fired up. Joe Giannetti, you are hot on the path right now, whether you realize it or not. You have one hell of a story working up inside the MMA world, so we cannot wait for that to unfold. Can't wait to see you blossom, man, and get your opportunity that you deserved. So before we let you go, man, I want to thank you so much for joining me again here on Pure Evil MMA. It means a lot that you took time out of your day to call in here and even took a risk driving and on the phone. So Joe,
I don't recommend it.
Joe, any shout out sponsors, anything at all? The floor is all yours.
I want to say thank you to Daniel Cormier. I mean, everything that he did for me on the show was amazing. Cain Velasquez, Deron Wynn, Bob Cook, all the guys from Tough. It was unreal, and I can't wait to come out to AKA and train with you guys for a week. Everybody at South Shore Sport Fighting, I literally wouldn't even have been on Tough if it wasn't for you. Bill Mahoney, mad scientist. On it, always had my back from day one. Receptra, CBD oil. I deadlift, I get sore. I train, I spar Manny Bermudez, I get sore. They're helping me out. Impact mouth guards. Everybody that's ever bought a ticket to Cage Titans, I hope you buy a ticket again. And you for having me on the show. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
There you go, guys. That was probably one of the most interesting stories or interviews I've ever done. I mean, this literally does not make sense to me at all, one bit. To see Joe Giannetti go in there and have the performances that he did. I mean, let's think back, honestly. Think back to the fights. What fight stands out the most? Probably episode 1 when Joe Giannetti chokes out John Gunther, breaking records in 17 seconds. What else stands out to you? The last fight that he had against Zuniga, where he went in there and literally looks like a machine. It looked like I was watching somebody play video games. At that moment, I was like, wow, Joe, he's doing it. He's doing it. And you guys know me. I give you my pure reaction. This is not biased at all. I give you guys my pure thoughts on all this work here. Yeah, I did the live reaction for Joe Giannetti during the during that fight in the finale, and it was a little lackluster. Let's be real. Joe knows that, and he regrets that a lot here. But it just doesn't make sense that John Gunther is on the UFC, and I love John, and that's awesome. That's amazing that he made it into the UFC. Luis Pena, the Violent Bob Ross, I love Luis. He said that coming on Pure Evil MMA was one of the best experiences that he's ever had inside MMA media. That means a lot, but it does not make sense how somebody who was injured going into the season, yeah, he had a great fight, and he had one amazing finale when he got onto that card. But he only had one fight inside the Tough House. Joe Giannetti put the work in, went over every obstacle, and shined and got brighter and brighter as the season went on to top it all off with the very last episode where he defeats Zuniga, who's 13-0 and fired up because his last fight got pulled against Ricky Smolin. I was nervous as hell for Joe going to that fight. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And the way he went in there and was just connecting the dots, it was beautiful. It was, like Cub Swanson would say, it was beautiful destruction. Going on this season, getting those finishes, getting promised money. Joe Giannetti, when he was saying, I was living in a truck, man. Like, I pray you saw me promise my father when I was getting on the train to the airport that I would come back a UFC fighter. He went all the way through the season, beat everybody, came back, and knew before this season even started to air that he was going to be in the finale. If there was anyone on the season that should have made it into the UFC, it should have been Joe Giannetti. And that's all I have to say about this. Mike Trezano, we've had him on the show. He had an amazing season as well. The Mellow Fellow had an amazing season as well, got his second shot. John Gunther got his second shot. Joe Giannetti is not even getting a shot. And he did what was asked of him to do. Get finishes. Break records. This doesn't make sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense to me, I really hope it does not make sense to you guys as well. At least pay the man the money. It doesn't matter what you think of this guy outside of the cage, how he holds himself. He went in there and he fulfilled the duty of being on The Ultimate Fighter undefeated. And now he leaves with one loss, $70 in his bank account. You heard that. But the dream's not broken, man. This fires you up to be like, man, what's next with Joe? And in this position, you will see a lot of people. Everyone's human. People will crumble in these moments. The stress gets to be too much, and they want to give up. Not Joe Giannetti, though. Joe Giannetti was more than happy to stand in the center of that cage this weekend at Cage Titans 40 and tell everybody that he's there to be an impact. And I will tell you this, more people will show up. I mean, Cage Titans was going sick for Joe Giannetti. Every time he would walk by, Joe, and people, oh, who's that guy? That dude beat everybody. He beat a guy in 17 seconds. Like, this was all going on around me. I heard all this. I was there. It was real. It was live. This just is crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I cannot wait to see what's next. As promised, I will be at his next fight to report everything. And I got the footage right here on my GoPro of him getting into the cage and telling everybody what's up, that defend or vacate. And there is he was supposed to fight Dan Dubuque before going on the season Ultimate Fighter, but with the opportunity that came, Joe took it and went. How could you blame him? He's back. Even if you don't want to give him Dan at first, give him somebody. This is huge for Cage Titans. This is huge. I'm more than happy to report this for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Man, I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, if Joe can't make it, there's no reason to have any more Ultimate Fighters. Why are you going to have a season Ultimate Fighter, but the guys who make it to the finale aren't on the roster, but yet you're putting Greg Hardy on the Contender Series and praising him? Somebody that's laid his hands on a woman. What about Joe Giannetti's inspiring story, making it to the finale? We all know about Octagon jitters. Mike Trezano, he didn't put on the best performance we've ever seen. I'm at a loss for words, guys. Let us know what you think on Twitter, evil_echo, that's EVIL_ECCO. Also on Instagram at Pure Evil MMA _. And we are now back on Facebook at Pure Evil MMA S. That's right, at Pure Evil MMA S. Guys, last but not least, we got new merch up. Teespring.com/Pure Evil Summer. End of the summer sale. Things are as low as $4. You can get merch for $4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I will put that link right down here in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I'm Eviletti from Pure Evil MMA, MyMMAnews.com. Remember, without evil, there's no purity. White knuckles to the end. For MyMMAnews.com. Behave yourselves.